going.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can
Didn't get a chance to turn up my camera, so the flashing and focus changing, obviously the defaults have gone bad again.
Yeah, it looks like that. It looks interesting. It looks like you're out in the war zone somewhere. And it's in bad connection.
That's going to be in a couple of weeks.
Oh, good. Where are you going?
I'm going to Southern California.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah, I saw the thing going. So
and one of the goals once I get out of quarantine and am vaccinated and stuff is to put SolarCast nanos around the nuclear power plant without permission.
That's even challenging. That's interesting.
So I've spent about since 2018 trying to get the cooperation of the utility, and the last time I spoke to them, I told them that I'd like your cooperation because we're going to be monitoring around this plant anyway. Well, last March I gave up on that and decided to do it without their cooperation. But then the COVID, crisis came along, and my trip got postponed by a little bit, and then it got postponed by a year and a half, and I'm finally going.
You should talk to Ray. Maybe he can give you an air RUT for RUT air.
The air note radiation units are not ready yet, and
but it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I mean, get something there.
I've got the SolarCast nanos that were they were basically earmarked for the library project at first, and then since last year they were set for this one. They don't work so well.
Yeah, good ones there.
But it's a good test. It's a good test because we don't care about this hardware so much, so we're willing to risk it. So we put it out, and if they take it down and discard it right away, we haven't lost as much. But it'll be a good test of whether I can do it. I mean, I've been there before, and you're essentially doing it right under the gun towers. And the last time I was there, I was making measurements. We put out a SolarCast just on a tripod for like an hour, and they came on their bullhorns and were like, "You can't stay there. You can't. Please move along. You're not allowed to be in this area." So whatever.
Okay, I see.
We'll see.
Okay,
I have plans, and I'll do a survey trip first, and I'll talk to the people at the security at the plant to let them know that I'll be working on the outside their property, but nearby, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's see. That's good. Interesting.
I verified that we have cell coverage so that the radios will be able to connect. Also, I'm not really as too sure. I need to be on. I can't do it on the utilities property, so it's going to be on poles and property that is very ambiguous as to whose jurisdiction it is. I think ultimately it's the California Coastal Commission's jurisdiction, but the U.S. Department of the Navy also asserts control, as does the utility and the San Diego beach management. So I'm hoping that there's so little coordination that everybody will assume it's somebody else's job and will just leave me alone.
You cannot get a different hat. You have a hat with not safeguards on it, but something like beach control or something like that.
No. Well, actually, I am going to buy. I'm going to bring my my work suit and my my boots and I decided to buy a new hard hat. Because the one I have here is fine, but they're only like $12 in California. So it's not worth, putting it taking up all that much space in the suitcase both ways.
That's true.
And, I've talked to Peter and Ray and things about it, and we've decided that I'm going to put SafeCast stickers.
That's up to them. So that makes sense. Okay, I see you're very busy, Mike. That looks
I'm just kind of clicking around while because this is the thing that, like, since you're talking about going to California anyway, so Joe mentioned like thematic dashboards, and I was thinking like I'm open to ideas here, but we could make I just did I just made a locations folder, and then what we can do is set up dashboards for each location that like ultimately will probably be pretty similar to each other, but to Joe's point, probably the how do you pronounce it? San Onofre?
San Onofre.
Then
I've heard people say San Onofre, and I say San Onofre.
San Onofre. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, San Onofre. But the San Onofre measurements we're probably going to want to show in millirams.
Millirams, right?
And so what we can do is basically start them off as just copies of each other. But then for the San Onofre,
songs, we can say songs.
What we can do is basically put in different, you know, I forget what they call it, like a multiplier or something. There's like a thing in here where you can say.
Well, you just set the scale on the side. I mean, the data actually doesn't change at all. Just the label and the numbers on the side of the graph.
Yep.
You know, because it's a direct linear thing. So.
Yeah, it's just a scale factor. This is what it is. It's you can put a script. That's what it is on the value.
Right.
And so that way you can just, here we have it divided by 334 because we're going from CPM to microsieverts per hour. But
so
we can just use a different value.
It becomes either 3,340 or 33.4. I forget.
Something like
Gotcha.
that.
Well, once you tell me for sure, it's easy enough to update it. And then that way, like, so basically all I need to know is the, I mean, it would be handy to know the device URNs. Yeah.
Right.
And if you have those, great. If you don't have those, then like as a backup, the other thing that we can do is once they're in place, we can use Kibana to do a geoquery so long as you know the rough location.
Well, I don't know which devices are gonna work. I know in fact, I haven't even, they're in storage in California, have been for a couple of years. I need to go get them, figure out which ones work. That may some of the things I have to do may actually change their ID, because if I have to swap components, then because the device ID is derived by the software. So.
Yep. Yeah. And so what I can do is, as long as I know that it's there and you've confirmed that it's reporting, one of the things we can do is in Kibana. Grafana doesn't have this ability, but in Kibana, it's pretty easy to do like a shape boundary. And then it'll filter to just those. So long as we know.
Pull up Daiichi. The sensors on that were deployed in February.
Okay, cool. So they're already there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not only that, they're still there.
Good.
So there's currently 4 out of 6 are deployed at Daiichi. 4 out of 6 planned.
Yep.
Should be right in the middle where it says Okuma there. Yeah, I'm not sure why they're not coming up.
Well, they're probably, it's these are aggregates, so I think until I zoom in appropriately, or they might, because this is just like an average.
North of there.
Whoops. This one here.
No, south of there, between those two.
Okay, so that's weird.
Right where it says Futaba.
Let me make sure.
At 7 days, that should be enough. Did they go offline? Let me have a look.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me do like last 30 days.
30 days should, I mean, they were working last time I checked. But they had fallen down to, they were doing like a report an hour, and last time I looked at them, they had fallen down to every 12 hours. No idea why. But then the mine here on my balcony had done the same thing, so it's repeatable. I'm looking at Grafana. They're there.
Oh, okay, so it might just be I'm using the wrong sensor value then. Does it report as like something other than LND 7128 EC?
I'm looking at the JSONs coming from them. Device URN.
You can send me a link if you have it there.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's. Let me.
Because it could just be I have the wrong field selected in this map.
Well, just or just go to Grafana safecast.cc and zoom in on there, and then they're there.
Go to the different dashboard, then it should be there.
I always feel weird zooming in on Japan. Like I feel like going across the date line over there is going to break something. You know, having California on the right side of the map.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's a little semicircle of 3 and then 1 on the north. So the one at the the 11 o'clock position and the one at the 6 o'clock position are still to be deployed. But they're planned.
Gotcha. So it's these 3 here.
And that one too. Yep.
Yeah. So. I'm just curious to see, like, I might just need to update the filter. So this is
it's different.
7128 EC, which is the same thing that this is showing. Why am I not seeing those? That's strange. Maybe the grid resolution is not high enough. Anyway, I'll try to figure that out later.
Yeah. Kibana issue, I assume.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be averaging because they are pretty close to like these other points. So it could be just give me an average that's like this one with the point cast.
Or we're going to have the same thing around on each locations, because the idea is to get them all in like 1 square kilometer around the, or you know, I don't know how big the plant is there. It's about probably 2 square kilometers.
Yeah, I'm getting something there. I think it's just the scale isn't tight enough. I'll have to fiddle with that later.
One of the things I've thought about
in the meantime, at least I know these 4.
Yeah, on the dashboard though, are there any ideas of how we could easily and visually like identify the lines in the readings graph with the locations, you know, the spatial locations? Because I don't want to do it with color, because color generally indicates the reading levels. So in this case, it would be like the radiation levels. But if one of them, for instance, suddenly has a spike or goes to 0, we'd like it to be immediately obvious which one is either reading something or broken. Yeah,
I think we can do that. And that'll be like, what we can do here is basically, since we know they're all reporting, what is it? It's the 7128 and the 7318.
They have both sensors.
Yeah, I think probably what would make the most sense is to do 2 different panels, one for each sensor, but then split by device.
And then we'll label them then like total radiation and gamma radiation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it'd be 2 tables rather than 1 table that tries to plot all of the graphs. And that's why I think like dedicated dashboards, I think will be pretty useful here.
And for the first couple, we can sort of hand code them, but it might be good to think about a methodology, like you say, where you can draw a polygon around something and make, you know, have something come up with all of those together.
Which would be awesome, but Grafana doesn't have anything close to that capability right now. Like I've been working on the map code a little bit, and it's not. It would need a lot of work.
Well, thinking about one like for Tokyo, I could easily see how having a location Tokyo would be overwhelming, because once you have, you know, I don't know, say 20 air sensors and 5 radiation sensors, it might just be too much.
Yep.
Consequently, we might want to limit it on sites like where there's a site of interest, a decommissioning power plant or a waste reprocessing plant that we sort of focus on. Then it makes sense to have, you know, a page that represents that theme, which is why, you know, called it thematic dashboard. And maybe the theme on some of them won't be around a location. It'll be around an issue.
Yeah. Like a particular event.
One of the other things we're working on right now is a sugar plantation in Florida that regularly burns their cane as part of the harvesting process. And the particulate matter that comes off of that and blows downwind is alleged to be causing serious health effects in communities downwind of this sugar plantation.
So wouldn't it be nice to have that data? Yeah.
But that's going to be a much larger geographic area than, like, say, the radiation monitors around a power plant, because, you know, it goes for miles. And so the area where the sensors are going to be might wind up being, you know, considerably downwind of the source. But we'd still want to have like a map that, I don't know, and maybe the whole thing is a Grafana dashboard embedded in a web page that has stories and, you know, about the issue, and, you know, that the people who are concerned with it can point to as and maybe we just make the Grafana part and they do this to site and embed our data in their story page or whatever they're going to call it.
Yep. Yeah, we could definitely start doing that. I mean, their dashboards are basically free, so we just need to go through the work of creating them. And we should be able to split this by device URN, but for some reason it gave me a weird.
I spent an hour a week ago when the meeting failed, looking at Grafana to see if I could edit dashboards, and I would say about 25% the way up the learning curve. But looking up from 25%, it's hard to tell if it's 25% or 2%. You know, the mountain looks big ahead of you, but your offer, Matt, to sort of have a session where I use, you know, the mat editor.
Yep.
It would probably be most the most time effective.
Which is kind of what I'm doing here. The thing that I'm realizing with this is we're running into another Grafana problem, which is that it is only capable of using like query filtering, not filters. And so we're ending up with like too many buckets basically, because we ask it to take like the average and then split that by all devices. And so you end up getting like, even though you only actually want those 4, it's giving you buckets for like every device we know about, like all, however many thousand of them. And then it's telling you it can't graph that because it's too many. So so we might have to do that in Kibana as well. We'll see how it goes.
And the only thing these devices have in common in their identification is essentially their location, their proximity. That you can't just say, okay, every sensor with a 4 in the 3rd position, or something. Because their serial numbers are just too randomized.
And it'd be nice if we could do geo-bounding, but like I said, it's another sort of limitation of Grafana, is the map panel doesn't have anything that would let us easily inject like a geo query, I don't think.
That may fail when we mix air quality sensors in, because you want to have, that would want to be something separate to. Also, the ones around Daiichi are going to have an interesting difficulty in depiction because their actual readings are so wildly divergent. Okay, the one that's directly west of the plant at the entrance is like 5 microsieverts an hour. The very far south, it used to be 7, and now it's about 3 because they did a serious cleanup around it. But the other 2 on the north, one of them's like 0.7 microsieverts an hour, and the other one, and the third one's again in that range. So they have a wide range of values that come in. So having a graph that's big enough to see all of them and yet have some, I don't know, that's something we'll have to think about.
Yep. Yeah.
Around Southern California is going to be easy because they haven't had an accident. So they're all going to read essentially the same and, right around 0.2 microsieverts an hour.
Yep. Cool. I might try this in Kibana once, just because I know it's not going to have like the filtering problem that Grafana has, just to get like a rough idea of what we're thinking and if it makes sense. And then maybe we can come up with a way to jam like a proper Elasticsearch filter into a Kibana dashboard so that we can split by device.
So
ID
it sounded pretty easy, which makes me get a little more ambitious, because what I plan to do next week while I'm sort of waiting at home is I'm going to get the devices brought to me, and then I'm going to sort of work on them, put them out in the sun, see if I can get them to connect and things like that. And then once I actually do the deployment, I think I'm going to wait about 1 week, so we've got like a week's worth of data, and then we want to make a push for publicity.
Cool.
So in that case, it'd be great if we had a theme page where that we could point people to they could put in their stories and stuff and say, look, this stuff has been deployed and here's the data, and this is where you can see it.
What do you mean by put in their stories?
Well, I'm hoping to get the attention of newspaper reporters. So they're going to want to, if they post a story online about, hey, independent monitoring installed around, the Songs plant. They're going to want to. It's going to be good if actually had something for people to look at.
And they're going to be linking back to us, basically, is what you're thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense then.
But I don't want to make big pushes and stuff until the sensors are functional. And until we have some way to display them, which is better than just the single sensor by sensor pages we have now. I mean, that's tolerable, but it would be better to have it something cohesive. Also, one of the complaints from the power utility itself has been that, they can't use our system because it displays in units that aren't acceptable in their
community. Which I think for each story we can just display a unit that they're accepting.
I told them I'll try and get millirems going, and it's such a trivial thing. But Americans and their Fahrenheit and their inches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where we should be in good shape by having it be like a dedicated dashboard for each place, because then we should be able to have different scale factors for each dashboard. The one thing that's going to be like a little bit of a pain is when we find out like some new trick. It's not going to apply to all the location dashboards, so we're going to have to go back and like edit and that sort of thing. But like, at the moment we're only talking 2. Should be pretty easy to just copy paste things around. If we ever get to the point where we're talking, 15 or whatever, then we can have another discussion about how we want to manage it in a more scalable fashion. fashion.
Depends on how ambitious Ray is with some of this. He's got projects that are similar, and hopefully, I mean, one of the other goals is that if this is successful, like I hope, it'll attract funding for people who have interests around other sites of for whatever reasons, that they might, you know, throw some money our way to do similar deployments, and that then we can use that to actually, you know, scale up and do things more properly.
Yep. Cool. So we have those 4 device IDs. I guess when you know the ones that you're going to put at San Onofre, you know, let us know those, or if they're at your house or whatever, we can do the same technique where we just spot them on the map and then copy them.
Yeah, well, I will have to find out. I don't have any idea what they are yet.
Okay.
And I don't think it's really all that important. And plus, my goal is to deploy 6 of them. And I think out of 8, only, you know, right now none of them are working. So I gotta hope I can get 6 of them working. And then we'll know what the URNs are. Although I think we could probably work on the dashboard with placeholders for the actual devices.
Yeah, for sure.
And then,
and
I
think
swap in the actual IDs when we know what they are.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We can.
Any ideas on? Right now, each device has a long number, a short number, and a 3-word identifier.
The URN is the thing to use. It's like the whole system is keyed off of that. So
okay, but we'll be using the URN internally. But any ideas on how we might depict it to somebody who doesn't care about, you know, the mechanisms of the internet? On the ones on Daiichi, I've labeled them. Yeah, I've called them north, southwest, northwest, and south. You know,
but you could maybe the name location would it help?
Well, for Daiichi, that'll work because each of them is essentially in a different jurisdiction. One of them's in Namie, and one of them's in Futaba, and one of them's in Okuma, and one of them's in Naraha.
If the RAT air, they can have the tower location displayed.
The other thing that's come to mind here is the AirNotes have NoteHub has the location like name or whatever. Like I have mine called like, you know, Matt Southwest or something like that.
Right.
It doesn't help us for the Solarcast Nanos, but at least going forward, if we do more, like if we're talking stuff that's like note card based, NoteHub has support for that sort of like location annotation, and then that annotation comes with every data point. So that becomes a lot easier to start like displaying that. It doesn't help us with the Solarcast Nanos, but so long as it's NoteHub based.
The rough plan is to replace these Solarcast Nanos with something NoteHub based soon. You know, like 12 months, 18
in
months.
Safecast terms. Yeah. Sometime less than 3 years, probably.
Well, Ray is especially worried that the support for the communications channel, the 3G, will be turned off. He says that he's been told that, you know, that through 2022, you know, but 2022 is getting pretty close. So I kind of think that in Japan, especially the Solarcast Nanos up around here, will be supported for a decade. Yeah, they're not going to turn off 3G in Japan anytime soon, but apparently there's much more pressure in the US to kind of consolidate maintenance costs on their cell phone networks. So they really want to get to the new hardware and 5G and drop 3G. So that sort of puts an upper limit on the connectivity of those particular devices. But, you know, being that close to the ocean in a publicly accessible place, I kind of wonder if they'll last that long physically.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was
poking at their shiny bits and whatnot.
Let's see what happens.
Because the Solarcast itself is also a lot of trouble with the humidity already. I mean,
yeah,
with a small device like that, we don't know. It's open, so maybe it's okay. But the connectors can be rotten easy if there is a lot of COVID.
I don't think that's going to be a problem as long as the Pelican remains sealed. You know, the membrane is not punctured and the seal works fine. I don't think the internal electronics are going to suffer from the saltwater environment. The sunlight, my Solarcast Nano is pretty yellow already, and most of the aluminum is gone from the mylar on covering the pancake, and it's been out for 3 years. I think.
No, I'm not talking about the Nano, but we saw issues with the Solarcast itself.
Solarcasts are considered obsolete.
Yeah, I know that. I've been working the last few weeks with Nori Watanabe about his device, and it's a mess inside. If you see that after 3 years use.
Well, we're gonna try and get him a something more recent to replace that.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I was pulling up the field here just so you can see what I was talking about. Like if it's NoteHub, you can enter like an arbitrary serial number.
A device SN, yeah.
Yeah, and then that comes on every data point. And so I think that's, so long as we can wait on like things like naming things like north or south or whatever until we're on NoteHub based devices. NoteHub itself makes this way easy. Doing it with, out NoteHub at play is possible, but will require a little bit more development.
I was thinking less programmatically and more socially. In that the part you're highlighting there says Matt Schaefer Southeast or South, And why the Southeast? Are you planning to have 4 of these?
Just for now. That way I know what corner my house is.
Okay. Okay, so so in that, by that scheme, the ones we would call them Daiichi Southwest.
Daiichi Southwest or something like that, yeah. And I think that's probably fine. And if we find a situation like you could just use Amazon as a model, right? Like if we find that we end up putting, like the way that Amazon put 2 data centers in the East Coast of the US and they just call them East 1 and East 2, we can just basically do the same thing.
How about Daiichi and Daini?
Basically, yeah. That'd actually be funny to think about it, right? It'll be Daiichi North 2. But yeah, I think like we could use something along those lines. And the nice part about with NoteHub is you can change this, and it doesn't, the URN always stays consistent. But if you decide like, actually, I'm going to move this from south to north, you can change that. And now the graphs will say south instead of north. But the URN is still consistent. We don't have to update a bunch of dashboards and stuff like that. It's just it's like a display time consideration more than anything else.
Okay, I've also considered the model from Arecibo. Arecibo was a telescope in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And the support towers were like Tower 12, Tower 7, and Tower, basically north was 1, or was 12. And
just use the clock. Yeah.
Look at the clock, right? So where you put a clock with noon at north, and you just number them, so that you knew there was only 3 towers, but they were basically where they were on the clock. And that was kind of intuitive once you understand the system, and especially since it was around a circle. And the same thing we could do the same thing at Daiichi, where we just called it the 6 o'clock sensor, the 9 o'clock sensor, and the 11 o'clock sensor or something.
Yeah. And then if you have 2 in a general vicinity, you can probably call 1 6 and 1 7 or something like that. Because
or 6:30. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, that gives an intuitive location for people who think about, oh, this is the one that's down in the south or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually.
We've also done that with compass points, but people are less familiar with by saying 180 and saying that's south.
Yeah. Clock locations is probably a little more intuitive.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that idea too. I'll make sure to call mine. Let me think about that. Southeast. I'll call it like probably 5. I'll have to bring up a Google map of my house just to make sure I have a good direction chosen.
Yeah, which is south.
yeah, exactly. Cool. So yeah, I'll play around with that dashboard a little bit more. We should be able to get it all splitting. The only thing that the possible gotcha is if I can get Grafana to do the split by device URN without blowing out the buckets in the query. I know I can do it on Kibana for sure. And if I can do it on Kibana, the other thing I can do is one of the guys that I work with is actually recently working on the Elasticsearch plugin for Grafana. So I might be able to nudge him and say, hey, can we get filter support on there?
And
more than nudge him.
Don't discount the fact that we have a good use case that he can use to test his designs.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and actually I'll be even joining his team next month, so I should have pretty direct access to him.
Well,
so
developers often need real world examples to guide their choices, and we're a real world example.
Absolutely. What were you saying there, Rob?
Matt, why did you change the team, or they assigned you?
Yeah. So I'm, and this is, there hasn't been like an official public announcement at work yet, but at least all my team members know. But yeah, I'm moving over to work more on the team that works on like the Kibana UI stuff. So today I've mostly been working on like cloud infrastructure, especially observability infrastructure. And yeah, I got an offer to move over to the team that specifically works on like the monitoring component. So like we have an app that basically helps you monitor like Elasticsearch or monitor Kibana or any Elastic piece of software.
So are you going to move your desk? Are you going to turn your room 90 degrees or?
Yeah, just to, you know, make a big deal out of it. Yeah.
To get that new job.
I think the big pump in circumstance will be me closing a bunch of my Slack channels and opening different Slack channels. I think is what it's going to come down to. Yeah. So
much more exciting work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really different, right? It'll be a chance for me to get back to more web development rather than infrastructure and SRE type work. So I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So looking forward to it. Yeah, and the guy who does a lot of the work on the Elasticsearch Grafana data sources on that same team too. So it's Chris Cowan, who we were talking about earlier. You and I were tossing his name around, Rob. So he'll be on that team as well.
Changing subjects a little bit, I'm getting a little more pressure from people about the whole Grafana infrastructure not being official. I mean, the main website and our official things points everybody to the main map and not to the Grafana pages. So we've defined, the people who know, I don't even go to the official like real-time pages anymore when I'm looking at sensors. I just use Grafana. But we're not.
I'm glad to hear that.
So we need to, what's the status on standing down real time and sort of this stuff, sort of publishing this stuff so that it's our main product that people see when they come to safecast.org, not inside.
It's nearly there, but still a lot of work to be done.
This is the main issue, and one of the things that like holds us back is that even to this day, like Nick is the only one who has really ever done any work on this bit of code ever. And so we need someone who is able to, like, either we need to have Nick do it, and I don't know how available Nick is going to be, or someone's going to have to spend, I would guess, at least a couple of days to wrap their head around what's going on here in order to make the appropriate changes. Okay. And then Rob, you also, I think, mentioned that like we probably need to make a list of like other things, but I don't know what those other things are. So, you're saying they're using it as a gateway.
Basically, I want to see a list of all devices online, like we have in real time. I mean, I made a hack with a table, and that works for me fine.
Yeah.
But,
and I think that
since Ray has changed the TT-Serve, we cannot get it out.
Yeah. Well, so we have.
The most important.
I think Taka is looking into it, but I haven't heard like a lot of news. I assigned the issue to him just today because he's finally in the org. But I think if he's working in this space, he should be able to improve this table a little bit to give us a little bit more like up-down status, that sort of thing. Yeah, most of the data is actually there. It's just that like when Ato originally did it, he was using the old data model, and then Ray changed it, and like I slapped it around a little bit, and I think like Ato was like, wow, this page is totally broken, let me fix that. But like no one's come around to say like, let's actually like get the appropriate list of fields on this table. Yeah, so someone just needs to come back and do that.
And it would be easy. It would be nice if we can just simply change it instead of having to build it but that's very difficult to do, I think.
Yeah, well, that gets us back to the whole Gitpod story that I was poking at over the last week. So yeah, if we can make it easier for people to just spin up a Gitpod and change columns or whatever, and then commit, I think that'll be a step in the right direction there.
That would be great if we can do that.
Yeah, and what's there is actually pretty close. You're breaking up there, Rob, or maybe I'm breaking up. I don't know.
You're fine. Rob froze.
It's very, very impressive.
Okay, good. That sounds like just saying thanks. but anyway. I
froze. Okay.
Yeah. Losing you a little bit, but we'll go back to the channel, I think. So yeah, I think this will help. It'll make it easier to change things. If folks want to try it out, if they like it, I can hit merge, and then it'll be on master, and we can go from there. Cool. All right, we're gonna get cut off in a couple of minutes anyway, so let's wrap it up. And
next week I'll be in time zone where I'll be in the evening, but I should still be at the meeting.
Awesome. Cool. And I'll ping you on the channel once I have something interesting to look at as far as Daiichi goes.
I'm kind of excited to actually be working on real stuff and field work again. You know,
yeah.
So much time. I didn't go to Fukushima, and then for the event, I finally went up there, and now I'm finally getting back on, my initiatives in California. There's another one called the Santa Susana Field Site, which is a field laboratory, which is also probably going to get a sensor if there's an extra one, but it'll probably only get one, so it doesn't really need a page.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we could do one anyway, or just reuse the basic device overview page or something.
Yeah.
For that one. Cool. Sounds good. I'll play around with that, and I'll send something in the channel once I have it.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you next week.